something that's sort of come up for me about culture and identity. Mm-hmm. The purpose of culture and identity, and I know that it has a role to play in one's life, but it seems like it's only part of the picture. So is it just a matter of becoming aware that it is just a veil, as they say, knowing that it's a veil that has a purpose and a use, but also knowing that one needs to, at times, let it go and see beyond that, if in one's journey to Allah.
I want to make sure I understand the question. Your question, it's two parts, if I understand it right, but you can correct me here. What is the purpose of culture? What's a good way to integrate it into our lives without it controlling us?
Yes. This is exactly. Yeah, the first one, I feel like, I sort of starting to understand the purpose, but it's more the second one where, the second question that I was interested in.
Yeah, well, I think you have to know both of them to be able to get a good answer. The purpose of culture is to provide an environment for humans to interact in a positive way and be able to deal with all the vicissitudes that we deal with on a yearly basis, which also brings in the idea of festivals and rites of passage, which are ways that we celebrate and initiate new relationships with the community. So I'll go over the basics. Once you understand what the purpose of the culture is, then you can see it more clearly how we can interact with it in a positive way. But if you don't understand some of the components of it, it's just kind of a fog. All right. So basics. The basics of a culture provide an environment for humans to interact. And what that includes in the beginning is, so we need a common form of symbols that we can communicate. So each culture has a different language or a different dialect, or even within a culture there can be dialects within that, but it's a way that we can communicate both by talking, and then there's going to be gestures that are common. So there's common symbols that we use that we can talk to each other with. There will also be body language that if you know how to read it, you'll be able to understand what's going on. And there's ways that we greet each other. Every culture has a different way. Asian cultures, you bow, showing respect. And the more respect or elderly the person is, the deeper the bow. If you want to insult a person, you go like that. If you want to show respect, you bow deeply. In Western culture, there's the hand shaking to show that we do not have a weapon, and guys there'll be sometimes a test of how hard can you squeeze, each of these symbols has a whole language within itself, right?
Yeah.
You're laughing, Robert. You know these kind of people, huh? Or do you do that?
No, I don't. I thought I'd done to me.
Yeah, and then you see kids as they learn how to address and greet people. So it's a way of, the Yiddish term is schmoozing. That is bonding with other people. This bonding is important to be able to create cohesion and be able to get things done. Okay? Second level is the rites of passage. Every culture has rites of passage. There are 4 basic rites of passage: birth, death, marriage, and initiation. I would like to add divorce to that and getting your first house. But each of these has usually a ritual connected with it, some kind of movement. And what it is you're changing your relationship with the community. For example, initiation, we're talking about into adulthood, is a basic one. You know, as you leave puberty, you become an adult. You are now an adult, and therefore in that relationship, you now have a different standing in the community. It's time to get a job, or it's time to get married, or it's time to have children. Whatever your culture is, values. And that's another thing, is every culture has specific values. What's important in that culture? What is the value system? For example, in Western culture, it's being ambitious, having employment, and having some kind of ability to get along with people and to take care of yourself, and maybe even to take care of others. In Asian countries or cultures, Asian cultures, what's most important is family, more than Western. Family, and we're talking like all the way back. They have pictures of their deceased relatives, and they will honor them on their birthday. The same kind of thing happens on Dias de Muerta in Mexico, where you honor the dead. What's most important in Asian cultures, especially China, Japan, Vietnam, and Korea, is you do not want to bring dishonor upon the family through your actions. So you must be circumspect in what you do so that you do not bring your family's reputation down. Very different way of looking at the world. We're not interested in innovation, we're interested in tradition. These things are important. And also within a culture, you will have a system of belief that unites people. Like the church is a really great way to bond different families together. So it's cohesive in that way. So there's a lot of stuff. There's also how you dress. We have a lot of people from India here. We have people from Pakistan. We have people from Turkey. They each dress differently. The Indian women will wear their saris still here. The men, the Sikhs, will wear their shroud on their head. Arabic women or Pakistani women will wear the full headgear thing with just their eyes, right? Or they will wear the hijab. These are all part of the culture. They have nothing to do with the religion. It has to do with what people are expecting and what they're comfortable with. Okay, so when people, for example, in our culture say, either talk about sports or the weather, to me that's bonding. It doesn't make any difference what you say. It's just that I'm a human. I want to make contact with another human because it's lonely here. I need to make a connection. So, how's the weather? How you doing? How's it? So this is very important. Without that, we are just dust motes floating around. We have a great desire to affirm our existence through interaction with other humans. So when people do small talk, for many years after my mental breakdown, I could not do small talk. I could not understand it. I couldn't respond to it. I had no idea why people were saying these things. It took me a long time to figure out it's to make people feel comfortable. Once I understood that, I went, it doesn't matter then. It's schmoozing. We're bonding. It doesn't matter what we talk about. I'm a human. You're a human. We have something in common. Let's find out what those things are. And you never know. You might find something interesting in talking with somebody. New points of view. When you see it from that perspective, the idea of culture is it has a purpose. It is a way of binding and bonding people so they have a connection and they have a purpose. And part of that purpose is, whatever your job is, that gives you, in Western culture, that gives you a certain sense of purpose and fulfillment to do your job. When you don't have a job and you don't have a home, you feel useless and you feel like you're a failure. Without a geographical center and a geographical home, that's a place that you can connect to, will eventually lead to anxiety and mental illness, because as a human we need that. We need connection and we need a home and we need to feel safe and we need to feel trusting. These are important to us. Without them we can't grow. In looking back at, as an individual, how do I fit in the culture? What do I do with it? You see it for what it is. It's a comfortable cloak we can wear around ourselves so that we don't freak out and go running around with underpants on our head and a hatchet in our hand saying, I'm free, I want to be a skunk. It's a grounding kind of thing. So does that make sense?
Yes, sure.
So I think it's important to ask the question, and as you move through your day, you're swimming in culture.
Mm.
It's the water we swim in, and it's really hard to see it. We're like fish in the aquarium. We're surrounded by culture, and we think it's real, and we think it's what reality is, and that it's important. But in reality, it's just like clothes. Whatever clothes you're wearing says a lot. There's a lot of symbols to it. If I wore my Pakistani shirt, you'd think, well, what are you doing? Are you appropriating another culture's fashion? What are you doing? Are you pretending you're Pakistani? And the thing is like, when in Rome, you do what the Romans do. You don't want to stand out too far. I have a really bad Australian accent, and I have decided it's better if I don't try, because people laugh at me. So I've given up trying to fit in with my accent, dialect. Right, mate?
All right.
Any questions within that? There's a lot there. It's important, though, to be able to observe it. And to observe it, you have to kind of step outside of it to be able to see it. Traveling to another culture helps you get a handle on how to look at your own culture. I mean, Robert, you went to China. You were in Beijing, right?
Not too much. No, Shanghai.
Shanghai. That's a whole other thing.
Yeah.
Did you get that on the street and walk around like?
Yeah, actually, my first time. Well, if you don't like, when we were kids, we went to Mexico briefly. But my first time, like being in a completely different country, was China and Shanghai. And it was actually, I was a little bit shocked actually. Although a lot of it had to do with just I'd never seen a city that big. Like it was just amazing. But yeah, it was definitely a different experience.
You've been to LA, yes?
Yeah,
That's big.
that's big, but it's sprawling.
That's
Shanghai,
true. Different kind of big.
yeah,
True.
like I thought San Francisco was like a big city, right? And then I landed in New York for that trip, and I was like, wow, this is a really big city. And then I went to Shanghai, and I was like, wow, this is a really big city. It was just like miles, like you'd be driving for an hour through skyscrapers, and I'm not talking traffic, just like full speed down the highway.
That was the question from Alameen about the difference between culture and an individual. Why is there culture and how do we live in it? And one is by understanding what it is and what its purpose is, and to be able to fit in. And this is always a good challenge for individuals, is to, can you be invisible? Can you fit in and not be detected that you are different? You're not special or spiritual or anything unusual. Just a guy or gal, just doing your thing. In your head, a lot of other things are going on, but that's not what we care about.
I'm just noticing, being down in Melbourne last couple of weeks, that I'm having to kind of do this weird shift of like, it's not that far away from home, but it still feels really different. And I'm like trying to kind of bridge the gap between, I feel like I'm in a brand new place, but then I'm remembering that like this is everyone else's home. It feels really weird. And kind of dealing with like the differences between being in a city versus like where I am, which is a bit smaller and stuff. And my brain's just kind of like, there's a shift. And I hadn't really realized that.
Yeah. Melbourne, the culture of Melbourne is very different than Sydney.
Definitely.
And when I came here, and going back and forth between Sydney and Melbourne, it was like the difference between LA and San Francisco. Melbourne is like San Francisco to me, and Sydney is like LA, where your worth is known by how successful you are.
Yep.
Which is a weird valuation of the soul, but was my impression. I like Melbourne. I like the people, and I like the arts, and I like the scene there. I like it. It just feels really comfortable. I just don't like the weather.
What was that? I think.
And yeah, realizing that like Wollongong's smaller again than Sydney, it's got like similar-ish to the Melbourne vibe in terms of being a bit cultural and that warm, friendly sort of energy that I really appreciate. But then I'm going into the city and being overwhelmed because I don't know where anything is. It's like a weird culture shock that I did not expect at all.
But that's typical. That's a natural thing. Until you know where you are, it's very uncomfortable. Because you feel like, I don't know what's around the corner. I don't understand this until you've been there for a while, and then you know where the coffee shop is that serves the great biscuits and and you see that person again, and you go, oh yeah, we ought to take a class together, or something. So, all right.
Yeah.
I want to move on, and because it's the Urs of Abdul Qadir al Jilani, I want to read a little bit from the Grand Masters, just a little bit, and maybe we can talk about it. So this is chapter 1, Returning to the Motherland. And he says, human beings can be studied in 2 ways, material and spiritual. Material means the outer, as matter. In this class, everyone is equal and subject to general terms or laws. That's like the culture. As for the spiritual existence, which is hidden in this corporeal form, a special situation occurs. The human, taken in general terms, can return to the motherland with certain spiritual degrees. To attain these degrees, they take the outer rules and regulations of religion as their means to proceed. Furthermore, they can get onto the spiritual path and into the realm of marifat, that's the inner knowing or gnosis. Marifat is an especially high state. Our prophet, peace be upon him, praises it thus. There is a wisdom that gathers everything in its essence, and that is the marifat of Haq, the true Allah's name or attribute al-Haq. For the servant of Allah to reach it, they must not act boastfully. We're going to divide the degrees of deeds that need to be done into 3 categories. These are called jannahs, or paradises. And the first is called mahwa. The second is the paradise in the angelic world, alam-i malakut, and this is called naim. And the third is the paradise in the archangelic world, alam-i jabarut. This is called Firdaz. What we mention here are the pleasures that cannot be perceived by the material body, but can be achieved by gathering 3 kinds of knowledge within yourself. Sharia, the Islamic canonical law, Tariqa, Sufi path, and Marifat. And so we mentioned the whole of the hadith, or tradition, or saying of the Prophet, that we mentioned above. That which gathers all goodness and wisdom is to attain knowledge, marifah, of Haq, and to act with it, and then to know what is false and to avoid it. Now let us mention a dua, a prayer, that our Prophet, peace be upon him, used to say. O Allah, show us the truth, help us to act with it, and show us the false, and make it easy for us to avoid it. Likewise, in another honorable hadith, he says, who recognizes their nafs and goes against its improper desires, in reality will have known their Lord and obeyed him. That which has been told up to here is for the general public. There is also the situation and the state of people who have a higher aptitude, which we will explain below. We will call them insan, or mature human beings. The place this real human being reaches is complete closeness to Allah, the truth. This is called Tawheed, that is unity or oneness, in the realm of closeness, in the circle of Lahut, that is the divine. This state exists in the life of this world as commonplace. In this state, you should not perceive any difference between being asleep, and being awake. Actually, when you go to sleep, the spiritual heart finds an opportunity to return to its homeland. The spiritual travel can be complete or partial. I'll say that again. The spiritual travel can be complete or partial. Allah the Most High, in an ayat-i-karim, a generous verse of the Quran, says, Allah the Most High takes souls in 2 ways, while you sleep and when you die. He keeps the ones that are determined for death and sends the others back. And we'll mention another hadith as a cross-reference. The alim, that's a knowing person, is better than the worship. The alim's sleep is better than the worship of an ignorant person. And what we mean by alim here is the one who enlightens their inner being with the light of tawheed or unity. Then with the tongue of the seer, that's secret, which is hidden. They continue zikr of Allah through repetition of the divine names and of the names of tawheed without word or sound. This is a real human being. Let us share a few of the hadiths Qudsi, wisdom that Allah imparted to the Prophet, peace be upon him, apart from that recorded in the Quran, that mention this. 1. The human being is my hidden secret, and I am theirs. 2. The inner knowledge is a secret of one of my secrets. I put that into the hearts of my servants. No one can know that state except me. And 3. I am as my slave assumes me to be. This is Allah speaking. I'll say that again. I am as my slave assumes me to be. I am with him. I am with them when they look for me. If they mention me within themselves, I mention them within myself. If they mention me in a group, I mention them in a better group. One thing is derived from all of these hadiths. That is a quality that takes a small place in the presence or existence of the human being. It is the knowledge of contemplation. And it is the most important knowledge. Let us relate a few of the hadith sharif our Prophet, peace be upon him, bestowed. 1 moment of contemplation is better than 1 year of worship. 1 moment of contemplation is better than 70 years of worship. 1 moment of contemplation is better than 1,000 years of worship. Success in everything is hidden in the essence of haqq. We must explain the mentioned hadith sharif because the same topic has been explained in different ways in these hadiths. If someone thinks about anything that carries wisdom and how many pieces come to being from one of its pieces and continues to think about how many other pieces come into being from these pieces, this is called contemplation. And this is equal to 1 year of worship. So he goes on here. Any comments or questions or things that this brings up for you?
I was just curious about something. Why does he not mention haqiqah?
That comes a little later. He's actually saying it, but in a different way. When he's talking about the marifa of haqq,
okay.
To me that's like, yeah, that's haqiqah.
Okay. Oh,
So,
sorry. What is like the literal translation of marifat? Maybe that would help me understand that better.
it's wisdom. Or another way you can think of it is experiencing the world as the Prophet does, which is a very profound state of being. Marifa is someone who has worked their way through Sharia, Tariqa, Haqiqa to achieve Marifa, which is basically what Sheikh was, Sheikh Tanner.
I'm trying to understand, obviously, a bit of a novice into, sort of Sharia, not being born into the Sharia, but does one need to fully embrace and go through the world of Sharia to be able to reach, Marifa and Haqiqa?
You have to experience it. You have to understand it. Just like when we were talking about culture, you have to live it. Right? You can be a hermit, of course, but that's not experiencing the culture. Sharia means that you try it out, see what it's all about. Do the 5 prayers, do your dhikr, do the holidays, and if you feel so inclined, you do your Hajj. Unless up to a point where you feel like you understand it and understand its purpose. The purpose is to give you a solid grounding to approach the Tariqa and Haqiqa material. The way I look at it, this is just my personal point of view, it's like developing roots. The roots give you the ability to ground and to hold tight during storms, and allows the tree to grow higher and reach to the light. The deeper the roots, the taller the tree. No roots, storm comes, blows the tree over. Now we got to start over again. Yeah, those roots make a difference. And for me personally, I had spent much of my life on the smorgasbord version of spirituality, picking and choosing what I liked and what I didn't, what I didn't like, I didn't take. So I was going along with my tray, picking up the things that I liked. And then I realized at a certain point that can't work, because you have to enter a system that's integrated and has a history of working, of being credible and efficient, something that works. And I'd been through a number of them to try them out, and they didn't work for me. But then when I found Sufism and I saw how it operated and the different components of it made perfect sense to me. It's like, this is a system I don't mind walking into and learning, because it gives you the grounding, the roots, and there's nothing that's really prohibited regarding how you grow. That how you grow is yours. There's no mold you have to fit into. The way you grow is yours. So you want to set up your root system and your foundation as something solid to be able to protect you when things get interesting.
Yeah, that's something that's really I've appreciated about Sufism, is that it's your version of how to get to Allah, and I really appreciate that. But it also makes it harder because there's less of the box that you just do the things.
Yeah, it means that you have to learn how to think for yourself.
You do, definitely.
And that means accepting that you're going to make mistakes. But that's how we learn. If we didn't make mistakes, then we wouldn't learn. And if we don't learn, we can't grow. And if we can't grow, then what are we? We're just robots. Alameen, something's cooking in there.
Yeah, no, I was just reflecting about the path of Sufism and what Rfa'i was saying, and how I think I'm where Rfa'i is, where sort of starting to appreciate that it's what you've just said, Sheikh. What's yours is yours, and I think coming from my Catholic background and upbringing, which we've spoken about many times, is it's always been, okay, and if I tick this box, this will, sort of bring me to Allah, and if I tick that box, that'll bring me to Allah, and if I, do that, then, but it's, sort of Sufism, or, Tariqa sort of turns that on its, starting to realize, turn that on its head, and it's, and it does starting to force you to think about what is your suluk, a deeper appreciation of the relationship to Allah, but more importantly, appreciation how much Allah is sabur, patient with us, because just like wait patiently.
Yeah. And for some people, it's a big deal. You looking at your panel of switches, good, bad, no, yes, sin, not sin. And you want to make sure that you've switched them all, properly so that you can get those points. You get a little ticket, a little heaven ticket. And to drop all that is scary, because that in itself is a foundation.
Yeah.
But it's not a real foundation. It's one somebody else made up. It's not yours. And it takes a lot of courage to that's not mine. I don't know what mine is. I want to find out.
And that's the connection for me, the loop or the link into culture, because culture holds that, holds what one needs to do to tick the boxes. But if we start to step away and not let go of culture, but sort of see beyond that, then you think, well, yeah, what is holding me, or what where are my foundations? And it brings you to another realm.
Yeah. And you can look at it in so many different ways. I mean, depending on what you've learned, what your job is, and what your situation is. I mean, several different ways to look at it might be as a molecular bonding. Different groups of people come together in a certain way because of a molecular attraction, magnetic, kind of resonance. We resonate together, and this group resonates together. And you have your jocks over here, and your musicians over here, and your lawyers over here, and they all resonate in their little groups. And they all think in the same way. And to then go, I think I'm a Sufi. I think differently, and learning the tools that allow you to grow beyond just being a factor in a culture, and to realize this is a lot more than you thought it was, that we're connected to everything. Everything's connected to everything. And just think, the breath I'm taking could have been breathed by, Abdul Qadir al Jilani, several thousand years ago. Could be the same air. I don't know. Everything's changing all the time. So allowing yourself to understand that this is a process, that it's a lifelong thing, and that everything that comes to you, this is also my way of thinking about it, because you say, well, I want to go beyond culture, and I want to learn who I am and what my suluk is. Then you can begin to see that you've turned on the teaching program, and that everything that comes to you is for you to learn from, that it's a school. And you are recognizing that, and then it's coming to terms with, I don't want to learn that. And Allah goes, Did you ask to learn? You want to grow, right? Yeah, but I don't want to learn that. I have other ideas. Oh, really? I don't care. You go do your thing, and let me know when you're ready, and we'll continue on with the learning program, okay? Yeah. What? What just happened? What did I say? Wait, come back. I didn't mean it really. No, nafs, It's hard, and it takes a lot of courage to every day take a new step forward to go, what what am I going to learn today? I hope it's something good. Because sometimes it's not. It's going to be good, but it isn't necessarily what you expect. And that's part of the surprise. Questions, comments? I can relate really, I can.
Mm. Yeah, it's just reflecting on what you're saying about, every day's, there's something to learn, or there's always, and just thinking about when I've had some days where, my focus, distractions as life happens, not being on Allah and feeling a little bit off. And the tendency or the conditioning has been to sort of thinking, oh, well, you're not focusing. Where's your focus? Focusing on Allah. And, there's a little part of me starting to do a number on me, or whether, about not being focused, or just being aware that, okay, there is a learning here that, or just recently this has come up for me. There's a learning that, okay, this is what it feels like when, you're not, when your focus isn't where it should be. So it's not about doing a number on yourself, but it's just about learning about your own energy and focus when it's not where it should be. So, yeah, just sort of that sort of, came up.
Reminds me, what was it, yesterday? The day before? I kept knocking things over, and I'm going, I don't know where my body is. It just keeps... It's just flopping around, and I'm not aware of it. I need to be aware of what's going on with my body. I've kind of lost touch with it. So that was 2 days ago. So stuff's always happening in different ways, and we either catch it or we don't. And if we don't, Allah is sabur, as he said, and it will come back again and go, did you forget something? It's an ongoing thing. And part of what we're trying to do is integrate all of our parts so that we are one whole being. I suggested to begin understanding water. We're going to eventually go to the other elements, but water is probably the best, and it has a lot to teach. And if you're not sure what you are learning, you can bring your focus to water and begin to do Rabita with it, both in its pond or static state and in its flowing state in a river, or in its wavy state in the ocean, or in one of its rain cycle states where it's clouds, and to look at the clouds. And maybe you can do Rabita with clouds as well. That's water as well in its vapor form. And then when it rains, which is going to be for us Monday, that's tomorrow. Rain coming, so here in Sydney. So connecting with that falling energy. This is all water. Water is amazing. The water cycle of how it just keeps going around and around. And without it, we be dead. And that we carry the ocean around inside us. I saw a talk by a biologist saying, we're just walking fish. A biologist point of view. Anyway, anything else you want to talk about? Yeah.
Just a little noticing, I haven't processed it properly yet, but what you were saying about clouds and rain and stuff. And I've noticed that the weather here in Melbourne is very different to the weather at home, which is just like, in Melbourne, you get little bits of rain relatively often, as opposed to back at home where it's like, okay, today is a wet day, cool. And just noticing that like water behaves differently in different places.
True.
And I went to the beach the other day, and it was like, oh yeah, that's right. I'm seeing the beach I'm seeing the other side of the water. Like I'm used to just the water being on the east coast and that's it. And because I'm on the bay now and I'm on the eastern side of the bay.
Okay. Yeah.
And I was just like, yeah, that's right. I'm so used to it being one way and forgetting that it's so varied and versatile, I guess. Yeah, it's different.
Very different. I grew up on California's west coast, and then I come to here and I'm on the east coast, and everything is all flipped around. Yeah. But talking about water, Robert, were you in Shanghai during monsoon season?
I managed to avoid that. I was in, not really, not this recent time, but we did get stuck in a storm in Shanghai once, and it was like, it was almost like clear blue sky 1 second, and then we sat down to eat, and then these dark clouds rolled in, and by the time we were done eating, it was like pouring so hard. And we asked somebody to come pick us up. It was like, it's an umbrella.
I understand. It was like that in the Blue Mountains sometimes. Like a hot, warm day, and all of a sudden, it's raining. And you go, what? Where did... And then it starts hailing. And you go, but this was a hot day. Why is there hail coming down? And then there's lightning, and then it clears up. And then it's like, what was that all about? A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Alhamdulillah rabbil alameen. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Maliki yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdina sirata mustaqim. Sirata ladzina an'amta alayhim. Ghayril maghdubi alayhim waladdallin. Ameen. Ooh. Blessings on our peer, Hazrat Abdul Qadir al Jilani. May Allah be pleased with him. And may Allah be pleased with you.
Shukran. Thank you, Sheikh.
Shukran,
Salaam
Sheikh.
Alaikum.
Salam.
Wa alaikum assalam wa barakatuhu. Rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Ooh.
Salaam Alaikum, murids, seekers, curious, and interested listeners. We appreciate you and are happy to share our Sufi message. Your donation will help support our Sufi Center in Sydney, where we do zikr, sohbet, spiritual counseling, and healing services. We believe the message should be free, but it costs equipment, rental, services, software, and hardware to get this to you. So thank you for choosing our podcast among all the millions available. If you go to our website, AnsariSufiOrder.org, you will be able to donate through PayPal whatever you think this information is worth to you. Blessings and love, the Australian Ansari Sufi Order.